I now yield 5 minutes to the author of this legislation. He's worked very hard on this legislation. The gentleman from California, Mr. Panetta.
Gentleman from California has 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Recognized. Gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate this opportunity. Obviously, I would like to share my appreciation of Chairman Engel, everything that he's done as a leader of all his constituents in his district, more importantly, all of our fellow countrymen and women here in the United States of America, as well as Ranking Member McCall from Texas and my good friend, Mr. Hurd from Texas, too. I rise today in support of H.R. 676, the NATO Support Act, Mr. Speaker. This is a bipartisan bill that allows Congress to assert our nation's support for NATO, to answer anybody who questions the purpose of this alliance, and to reaffirm the NATO pledge that an armed attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. The Mutual Defense Pledge is why NATO has been the most successful military alliance in human history. It is an interdependency that has stood as a sturdy, strong, and sound anchor for peace that has prevented new world wars, fostered Western prosperity, and advanced democratic governance. It has been the will of our nation, the United States of America, to lead and to finance the defense of other nations, which has allowed them to develop and prosper economically and to expand and evolve democratically. Yet at the same time, Moscow never went to war with a NATO partner. We got bases and a guarantee that we would not have to fight alone. Europe became our largest trading and investment partner and our chief diplomatic and military companion. And everybody on the European continent got stability and peace to strengthen their democracies. Now, all of us agree that we can continue to put pressure on our NATO partners to pay their self-stated goal of the 2% of their GDP to this alliance. But that doesn't mean that we want to get out of NATO. In fact, doing such would be an historic mistake. NATO is not a transactional relationship. Our sole focus can't just be on who pays and who gets what. Being a part of NATO is not like being a part of a country club. Instead, we value our NATO partners, and more importantly, we realize that the power of the NATO partnership is absolutely invaluable. And the tangible results prove it, not just what we have seen in the past, but what we are seeing now. In our enduring fight against terrorism, our NATO partners' will to join that effort was demonstrated just hours after the attack on 9/11, as nations volunteered to invoke Article 5. Now, I served alongside of many troops from many NATO countries during my service in Afghanistan from 07 to 08. Now, I left that country in 2008, but I can tell you after 17 years of war, NATO troops are still there serving alongside our sons and daughters who are serving in uniform. And when it comes to Russia, our NATO partners will continue to play an important role as a deterrent for their aggression, and they will continue to coordinate and collaborate with us as we not only ready for a conventional war, but also push back against Russia's use of hybrid warfare. NATO is instrumental in setting us apart from Russia. Why? We have allies that will stand by us. Russia does not. That's the foundation for our NATO partnership, and that is the foundation for the NATO Support Act, an act that rejects efforts to withdraw from NATO and prohibits any funds to be used as such. It supports increased defense spending by NATO partners, as well as the funding of the European Deterrence Initiative to deter against Russian aggression. And it reaffirms our unwavering support of NATO, not only as a defense pledge, not only as a partnership, but as a proven core for an international order that favors democracy and peace. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank Chairman Engel. I'd also like to thank Daniel Silverberg from Majority Leader Hoyer's staff, Jacqueline Ramos from the Foreign Affairs Committee, Matt Manning, and Jay Hernandez from my office. Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to thank you and respectfully thank and ask all of my colleagues, Republican and Democrat, for their support on H.R. 676, the Bipartisan NATO Support Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.